So first of all, thank you to you and your team for the great lineup and the organization. Always a pleasure to be here. So thank you for that. My name is Umur Hursever. I'm one of the partners at Lightrock. And we're here today to talk about hydrogen and Sunfire. I have the pleasure to introduce you to Nils Aldag, our CEO and co-founder, and of course a portfolio company of Lightrock, and we're proud of it. And hopefully another German unicorn in the making, since we had two of them before us. So Nils, do you want to say a few words about yourself, and then we can start with the Q&A maybe?
Yeah, happy to do so. So Umur, thank you very much for the introduction. Nils Aldag, my name, co-founder and CEO of Sunfire. We are a manufacturer of electrolyzers for industrial customers. So we produce the main devices that generate hydrogen from water. We can talk a bit about it in the next 10 minutes. We're a 550 people company. We've raised around about €500 million, around about 300 from private investors, 200 from public sources. And yeah, I think are one of the leaders in this green hydrogen space.
Great. Let me go and start with the Q&A and maybe start with the basic question, which is the title of the session is called Hydrogen is the Answer. So Nils, what is then the question?
So this is actually the title from a newspaper article that came out about, I think about 1 year ago, and it said, hydrogen is the answer, what was the question? And we love this title of this article so much because this is really the feeling in the clean tech industry is that hydrogen is so versatile that it is actually proposed as a solution for a large variety of climate challenges that we have. So I think this reflects a bit the feeling being in Switzerland. I think the second analogy to this topic that always comes up is hydrogen is the Swiss knife of the climate transition. Now, since it's a bit of a, let's say, nerdy technical topic, allow me to explain a bit what this is about and what we do here. First of all, hydrogen is a molecule, a gas, which allows you to replace fossil natural gas, fossil crude oil, and also fossil coal. And you can use hydrogen in various forms and produce it in different ways. To start with the production side, the most cleanest way of producing hydrogen is by using big industrial devices that basically have membranes inside of them, and those membranes split water into hydrogen and oxygen when you apply renewable electricity to it. And then hydrogen can be used in different ways. Just one example, one of the most prominent ones, hydrogen can be used in the steel industry to substitute the use of coal. How is that being done? When you produce steel, you take as an input iron ore, and today what we do is we use coal or carbon to extract oxygen from the iron ore, and the mix of carbon and oxygen produces CO2 or is CO2. And you could do the same thing with hydrogen. And by using hydrogen in steel making, you produce steam and prevent the creation of this dangerous gas for our climate. So yeah, really hydrogen is the answer to a variety of questions: steel making, chemical industry, long distance transport, and maybe less to things like passenger transport, which for a very long time was the key topic under which hydrogen was being discussed.
But it is definitely a big market, and seems like the potential is huge behind hydrogen. So what does it mean specifically then for Sunfire, and what is the opportunity there for you guys?
So to understand the order of magnitude of this opportunity, let's look at Europe. Europe has set itself a target to use 20 million tons of hydrogen in 2030. That's the target, and there's a lot of measures that are going to support the production of this volume of 20 million tons of hydrogen in 2030. This is around about 10%, the equivalent of 10% of the natural gas we use today. To produce this amount of hydrogen, you need around about 200,000 megawatt of installed capacity of the devices that we produce. Today, we have around about 200 megawatt of installed capacity. So the target is within 8 years to increase the capacity by more than 1,000 times. And that's just Europe. And against that growing demand, which we feel on a daily basis, if we look at our order book, is the supply side. So the side of credible companies that have sufficiently big resources, production capacities, funds to invest into projects and so on. If you look at the amount of companies that are in a similar stage as we are, you are probably at less than 10 companies globally. So we expect that this is one of the greatest opportunities in the clean tech space. And that there will be a massive supply shortage for the equipment that our company is building.
And in terms of, we didn't practice this, by the way, so, but in terms of, the projects you're going after, what type of projects would you prefer? And what kind of customers would you prefer?
So, I mean, we sell to basically all sorts of industrial customers. So we sell equipment to the second biggest steel maker in Germany. So the steel industry is a very interesting field. We sell to some of the biggest petrochemical companies in the world. So Total, Neste, who's a rather renewable player in that field. But also to chemical companies that are producing fertilizers for the food industry, and even to food companies that substitute natural gas with our hydrogen to produce stuff that we eat every day. So really the mix of customers we're already serving today is huge. And the growth in order book over the past 12 months has been beyond anything we could have imagined.
You're telling me it's all an execution game from now on. Very good. And given that we talked about Europe and the good tailwinds there, if you look at other geographies, what's happening there? Are there opportunities there?
So I think, first of all, looking back at Europe, I think this is really, from an industry political side, this is one of the biggest opportunities for our continent. Why? Because the skills you need to build equipment like the one we built, it's very close to building combustion engines and to building chemical factories. So Europe is relatively well in a relatively strong position from its skill set to become a leading player in the field of electrolyzers. We saw extremely interesting, and Europe has been driving this debate over the past 10 years. Practically overnight, the US, for example, has created with the Inflation Reduction Act a mechanism which will pour 50 billion euro in funding in a very short period of time into this green hydrogen industry. So we're starting to look for more outside of Europe. The US is super interesting, but there are also other regions in the world. I think it's fair to say that the 90s were the decade of wind, the 2000s, the decade of solar, the 10s, the decade of batteries, and I'm convinced that the 20s are going to be the decade of hydrogen, because it's not just a European topic anymore, but it's actually becoming a global topic and hence more diversified.
That's very helpful. Can I ask more a pointed question then for the short to medium term? Given all this positive momentum you've seen in hydrogen, whether it's in Europe, which has been there for the last 10 years, but then also the IRA, in the US. For you short term, what's next for Sunfire? What are your priorities there?
So the biggest, you said execution. The biggest challenge we have right now is we're building up our gigawatt value chain, which is basically two big factories which are going to produce hundreds of megawatts per year. That's the first target. The big first block is going into operation mid next year. And the second one is, this is a cash-intensive business. You have to finance big projects and hence working capital. So continuously financing the company is a top priority for us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for the session. Thank you.